Hey, fourth and fifth graders, we are still reading Sheep by Valerie Dobbs. We are on chapter 12, which means we have one chapter left after this. So that's kind of exciting. So remember, our poor dog has been all over the place, and now he's with the little boy at the orphanage. There wasn't much I could do for Luke once the dough lady sent me packing. I headed away from the home with no plan for what to do next. Something about the kid had struck me in the no sheep town, always watching my back for Billy or the truck from the pound. The kid needed me. I guess that was it. He needed me like nobody else ever had. Sniffing my way down the street, I kept thinking about all the boys. I couldn't figure out what they were all doing in that place. Had they all run away from home? Were they captured one at a time like stray dogs? Why didn't their moms and dads come and get them back? From my short time at the pound, I remembered the happy reunions between dogs and their owners. But some dogs got stuck there too long. There were terrible stories about what happened to you if you didn't get a home. Stories that made my fur stand on end. They wouldn't do that to the boys, though, would they? By instinct, I had been moving toward the darker end of town, onto streets with broken streetlights and boarded up houses. People in the darker places were easier on dogs. As a rule, they didn't get all worked up over a tipped over trash can. You got your higher quality garbage in the better neighborhoods, but you could end up paying for it with your freedom. I turned into the yard of the house with a wide, sagging porch and a nice thick bushes to hide in. To look at the place, you'd have thought nobody had ever lived there, but the porch underneath was a regular rat hotel. I stuck my nose in, and the tenants ran in all directions, which was fine with me. Sleeping with rats isn't my idea of a good night's rest. They never settle down, always scratching and sniffing. I don't know how they get any sleep at all. But I wasn't sleeping so well myself, so much on my mind. Billy, Tiffany, Tiffany, you, and you too. Had it been right for me to run? Shouldn't I have stayed, stuck it out with my friends, tried harder to talk them into leaving? What did my life amount to anyway? Was it even worth saving? The truth, it seemed to me then, was that I wasn't getting anywhere. I'd come no closer to where I belonged. In all my time on the road, I had seen exactly 2 sheep. 2. And they were stuck in a truck. All I got there was a snoot full of memory. His little nose, because he's smelling. Where was my life going now that I was free again? Without honest work, what good was I? I was a beggar and a thief, nothing more. I knew the goat man wouldn't be proud of me. I didn't even want to think about my dad. A smarter dog would have found a sheep by now. It was another fitful night, just me and my thoughts and those rats. Morning came at last. Light seeped in under the porch. My hiding place was dismal in the morning. Broken bottles, cigarette butts, a bicycle wheel threaded with spider webs. I crawled out, did a couple of rolls in the dust to get the kinks out. I wasn't in very good mood, and my empty stomach ached. I started back towards home, giving my ugliest sheep eye to every cat that crossed my path. Scared the heck out of the lady's chihuahua, too. But then everything scares those skinny little things. Something new. A long white banner was stretched across a chain-link fence at the Good Shepherd home for boys. There were words on it and stick figure drawings of people walking into a home and coming out with boys. So that was it. The Good Shepherd home was a pound for boys. They live there until their parents come back or somebody else adopts them. Adoption was all the dogs ever talked about at the pound. Man, did they carry on when people came. All but me and the sheepdog. We learned to let our best selves shine. Then Billy came. Well, you know the rest. Billy was the circus guy that was really horrible to him. Luke was waiting at the end of the fence. As soon as he saw me, a big grin broke out on his face, and he came running, waving something in the air. "Hey, Jack, guess what I got for you? A bone!" Well, it was a bone, all right, not a shred of meat on the thing, but I gnawed on it some to make the kid happy. I could only guess what he'd gone through to find that very thing he thought a dog would love. Somebody had cleaned Luke up. He was wearing his Sunday go-to-meeting clothes. That's what the goat man called him. And his haystack hair was slicked down and something sweet-smelling and sticky. "Come on," he said. "There's a place where we can hang out for a while. While you wait for me. It's adoption week. I gotta do this dumb lineup thing." He waved for me to follow. Hey, don't forget your bone. I followed him around the side of the building. When we got to the narrow doorway, he stopped and looked around to see if anybody was watching. There's just tools and stuff in here. I found a rug for you to sleep on. He opened the door to a small, dusty room, smelling of gasoline. It was jammed with tools, like the kid said, and the usual cobwebs. Never stopped spinning, those spiders. On the floor was a nice little striped rug, but I couldn't go inside, not even for Luke. Come on, boy, he said, stepping in. It's all right. But it wasn't. What's the matter, Jack? He knelt down, began to pet me. I could tell that he was trying really hard to understand, but even with people language, how could I have explained what it's like to be locked up? Even the home didn't lock the boys inside. I knew Luke wouldn't do that to me, but something else might. I couldn't take a chance. Luke unbuckled my harness and gave me a rub down. Lucas? Luke jumped up. Criminy, that's Mrs. Pinch. I gotta go. He bolted out of the tool room, dragging my harness behind him. Wait for me, Jack, I heard him call. I won't be long. Nobody ever picks me. That stopped me in my tracks. What did he mean nobody ever picks him? What kind of people wouldn't pick Luke? I had to see these people who came to adoption week. If they didn't like Luke, they were not very smart. I hung around till several cars and one old pickup truck pulled into the parking lot. As the people got out, I looked them over. They seemed okay to me. For people, I mean. A little serious, but that was to be expected. You didn't want to adopt a dog or a kid if you hadn't thought the whole thing through. I mean, it isn't like getting a fish or a rabbit. Then I saw the perfect folks for Luke. They got out of the pickup and crossed the parking lot, hand in hand. The lady was round and pink, and a happy kind of face. The man made me think of Bob. He was shorter and younger than Bob, but he walked with the same sure stride, and his hair, it was like Luke's without the sticky stuff. My stomach was growling something fierce, but I had to see what would happen. I had to see the look on Luke's face when he saw new folks picked him. The windows on the side of the building were long and low to the ground. They made it easy for me to look in. Most of the rooms were empty. Well, empty of people. There was furniture and stuff. Then I found the room with the kids. I crouched low so I couldn't be seen, stuck my nose at the edge, and watched. The boys were all dressed like Luke. Dark pants, clean white shirts. They stood in a single line, their hands at their sides, and they were like the dogs at the pound. You could see they were trying very hard to behave. The tall ones stood with their shoulders back like soldiers, and the smallest ones looked really scared. I didn't see Luke at first, and then I did. He was at the very end of the line, scowling down at his shined-up shoes. His fists were stuffed into his pockets. On the other side of the room stood the parents. I mean, the people who wanted to be parents. They looked a little frightened, too. The doe lady Luke called Miss Pinch was there, and so was a tall man with gray patches of hair on his head and a very long nose. I couldn't hear what the man was saying, but his mouth wasn't moving. His mouth kept moving for a very long time. I saw the boys laughing at something he said. All the boys but Luke. Luke never looked up, not once. He didn't laugh at all. Then there were all these shaking hands. Strangest thing. In their long line, the boys walked up, did this little bow, shook each person's hand. The parent people smiled and looked the boys over as they passed like sheep. Luke was the last in line. He slumped along with hunched shoulders, dragging his feet. He shook hands without looking up once, not even when he got to the perfect folks. It was downright discouraging. What was the matter with that kid? Did he like living with the doe lady? Didn't he want a real home? I watched until several of the boys had been picked and left holding the hands of their proud new parents. The folks with the pickup left without anybody. When Luke came out, I couldn't even look at him. Come on, he said, as if he were mad at me, but I knew he wasn't. Let's get out of here. I don't care about all that stuff, he said, kicking a stone halfway across the parking lot. Bunch of dumb people. I wish old Pinch and them wouldn't make us do that. They just want us to get rid of us is all. Especially us big kids. Nobody ever picks us. Nobody, but no matter what we do. But you don't even try, I wanted to say. Even the boy who'd pushed Luke around had been trying his best to get some parents. He stood straight and tall, like he was proud of himself. He shook hands like he really meant it, but not Luke. Well, that boy didn't get chosen either, but he'd tried. You'd have to respect that. We left the home behind, Luke scuffing his feet as if they were too heavy to pick up. He was wearing his old clothes again and his torn tennis shoes. There's probably something the matter with me, he muttered. I mean, besides the reading, things get mixed up in my head sometimes. It's probably in the records, probably says some crazy, that I'm crazy or something. We crossed several streets. Luke kept wiping his runny nose on his sleeve. At least, I got the quarter. We all get one for being good. Hey, I know. Let's get an ice cream. You know, ice cream can cheer a soul right up, but I've never tasted any till today. Luke bought us a vanilla ice cream cone, and we shared it sitting on the sidewalk. People kept stopping and smiling at us if we were putting on a show. If Billy had been there, he'd have charged admission. But I didn't want to think about Billy, not ever again. My dad bought me this ice cream once, Luke said, taking a swipe with his tongue. That's why I always get vanilla, 'cause it's what he bought me. We were making a real mess of that ice cream, but it was good. Not as good as goat's milk, but close. Luke frowned. My dad wasn't a famous runner, Jack. I said that because that's what I tell everybody. The only time I ever saw my dad was when the cops were chasing him. That was the last time I saw him, too. He gave me the tip end of the cone. Then he wiped his mouth on his sleeve. I never did have a mama, is the thing. Well, I guess I did when I was born, but I don't know what happened to her. Luke turned out to be a real talker. Moms passed, pushing baby carriages. A little boy floated a balloon from the perch of his dad's shoulders. Luke kept right on talking. I think he'd been waiting a long time to stick all those words together. Now that he had somebody to listen, he wasn't about to quit. When my aunt called home, I looked around for something from my dad's to keep, something to take with me. That's when I found the stopwatch. He reached into his pocket and took out the pieces he'd picked up off the tracks. He rubbed his thumb back and forth across the biggest piece. I laid my head on Luke's lap, wagged my tail to let him know I understood, and he smiled then. It was like the sunrise, that smile, like the sun forgetting the night it had left behind. There was still a lot of hope left in this kid. He had to have some folks, that's all. He just had to. I had done my share of looking, and I knew. And that's the end of that one. So now, next week is the end of the book. Let's see what happens. Hopefully the boy gets a home, and the dog gets a home. All right, guys. Have a great week. Come and get books if you need them. All right, bye.